Welcome back to the Genius Hour module. I wanted to talk about the theoretical framework on which Genius Hour is grounded. So Genius Hour operates best as a student-centered, task-oriented, open-ended project with embedded lessons throughout that focus on everything from self-regulation and general management concerns to how to conduct and present effective research. There is a very heavy linguistic component and language acquisition component to Genius Hour, and it's from the French language acquisition curriculum for the province of Alberta, where I have drawn my expectations for this project. You can draw yours from the language curriculum, from your respective language curriculum. Genius Hour's theoretical framework is best viewed along several ideological lines, all working in unison to create a larger whole. The best way to articulate how the different ideologies combine to create the framework for Genius Hour would be to trace those theories through a TPACK model to see how they all balance out. After doing that, I'll present Genius Hour with regard to the SAMR model for technological integration to demonstrate how well the project fits that model for the model for modification and redefinition as well. Lastly, I'm going to look at the student-centered approach to teaching as a management model that is flexible enough to achieve the goals of this project. So, some context for TPACK. First, a brief explanation of TPACK, what it stands for and how it works. TPACK is an acronym that stands for Technological, Pedagogical, and Content Knowledge. It is a way of visually representing the complex theoretical considerations that go into a technologically integrated classroom. A good resource for this is Mishra and Keller's 2006 article that they published there. I've got that listed in my references at the end of this module. What's important to consider about the TPACK approach is not just the meaning of the three domains of knowledge in isolation, but rather their interaction in pairs, as in PCK, TCK, and PTK, and as a set, the full TPACK set. Mishra and Kohler point out that this is similar to Schulman's 1986 idea of using pedagogical content knowledge, PCK, together basically as a way to overcome viewing content and pedagogy into separate spheres. In the same 2006 publication, they also suggest that the technology sphere be viewed as integrated with the Schulman 1986 PCK model to create the full TPACK concept, complete with 7 different spheres to consider when planning technological integration in the classroom. You can see I've got those spheres all listed here. The 3 colored circles, red, purple, and green, are content, pedagogical, and technological knowledge accordingly. And then where they cross over, we've got our different domains represented by the 3 little stars and the 1 larger star in the middle there. So how do I think about it? How does it all fit for me? Well, let's talk about content and pedagogical knowledge. The nature of this project puts the responsibility for the content, for the content of the final product firmly in the student's hands, and that leaves me the responsibility of teaching the students how to gain access to the information that they're going to need. Therefore, the specific content that I will be teaching will be focused on the tools which will enable my learners to succeed at the project's tasks. Technological and pedagogical knowledge, well, we know that significant issues can arise when using technology, many of which can seriously divert my attention away from helping students who are focused on their work. Many of these issues can be mediated, if not prevented, through appropriate classroom management styles. So what options are at my disposal in a project of this scope? And then finally, pedagogical and content knowledge. It will be important to know how to teach students to do research, use technology, and use media. And of course, I'll have my own language expectations running through this project as well. What options are at my disposal for teaching these subjects, and what methods would work best for ensuring that students understand the lessons? So clearly, this project is not to be taken lightly. If we're to succeed at this project, then my students and I will need to stay focused on meeting our objectives throughout the 8-week period, all while letting go of the norm and pursuing our interests. We're going to need a management framework that will enable us to focus on meeting our objectives. But first, let's talk about the SAMR model. So, like TPACK, SAMR is an acronym. It stands for Substitution, Augmentation, Modification, and Redefinition. Now, SAMR is very similar to Bloom's taxonomy. And basically the idea here is to keep your technological integration. It's a Bloom's taxonomy for technological integration. Keep that technological integration up at the modification and redefinition levels as much as possible. You see on the right here, I've just explained why I think Genius Hour is up in there. It's not quite a full redefinition per se, since encyclopedias do still exist, but the fact that we're able to get access to that much information inside a classroom, and the fact that we're able to create a presentation instead of just usually the usual write-up about it, I think is grounds for at least a strong modification of the lesson, if not a full redefinition. Now, finally, on with the student-centered approach. The heart of this project lies at the nexus between motivation and linguistic development. Objectively speaking, we're trying to use the framework of the module and its research-based approach to teach a linguistic style and work on our precision of language, all at the same time. The nature of this module puts the students in the driver's seat because they are the ones who will be piloting their own projects. This shift in thinking sees the student less as a passive vessel to be filled with knowledge and more as an active agent able to choose whether or not to learn. Keeping the student at the center of the lesson changes the role of the teacher from that of an active distributor of knowledge and to that of a designer and facilitator of learning. This shift in thinking needs to be addressed at the planning phase because it has significant implications for both the pedagogical technological sphere as well as the pedagogical content sphere of our TPACK planning framework. Our task as a teacher is not to plan and design the student's projects nor to control that outcome in any way. Our task is rather to employ strong pedagogical methodology in both linguistic development and with regards to the ITSE standards for technological integration to ensure that the learning outcomes will be met as a product of the student's experience with the project. In other words, stick to the structure of the plan and trust in the science of your teaching to evaluate only the designated curricular objectives. A student-centered approach should promote active engagement, discovery, and creating one's own understandings while building on pre-existing knowledge. By sticking to the plan and acting as a facilitator for the students' learning, you can achieve your curricular objectives while the students unleash their creativity. And this is a win-win.